crux of what any American feels about what steps we should take in response to Vladimir Putin's aggressive war in Ukraine, for sure, most are appalled by what he has done. As Putin moves to regain Russian control over nations that once were part of the Soviet sphere, we ought to think about the circumstances under which the Soviet Union collapsed to consider how it all might be reversed. In March 1983, President Ronald Reagan spoke to the National Association of Evangelicals and delivered what would be famously become known as the speech in which he called the Soviet Union the evil empire. Discussing America's effort to confront the Soviet Union's nuclear arsenal, President Ronald Reagan said,
"I urge you to beware the temptation of pride, the temptation of blithely declaring yourselves above it all and label both sides equally at fault, to ignore the facts of history and the aggressive impulses of an evil empire, to simply call the arms race a giant misunderstanding, and thereby remove yourself from the struggle between right and wrong and good and evil."
Reagan spoke more than powerful words of truth that day. He spoke almost as a prophet. In that speech, he said that, in quotes, while America's military strength is important, let me add here that I have always maintained that the struggle now going on for the world will never be decided by bombs or rockets, by armies or military might, that the real crisis we face today is a spiritual one. It is a test of moral will and faith, end quote. Some 8 years later, the Soviet Union, which for years during the Cold War was thought to be the superpower rival of the United States, collapsed. There was no war. There was just Reagan's unwavering commitment to the principles he articulated that day in 1983. 8 years after that speech, in 1991, the Ukraine, now under siege by Putin, was independent and free. Now here we are some 30 years later, as Americans watch the events unfold in the Ukraine. Perhaps we should refocus on what's going on here in our own country. For if we lose a sense of the importance and relevance of Reagan's words as they apply at home today, we surely will not know how to relate to events as they transpire in the rest of the world. And there's plenty of reason to believe we're losing that perspective here at home. We see a direct correlation within our own borders, in our own country, of the decline in faith in the eternal principles that keep us free and safe. And with this decline, Americans are gradually but decisively choosing to abandon our freedoms. In a survey published at the end of last year, Gallup reported that 69% of Americans self-identified as Christians in 2021 compared to 90% who self-identified as Christians in 1971. In 2021, 21% of Americans said that they had no religion, compared to only 4% in 1971. In 1965, 70% of Americans said religion was very important. By 2021, that was down to 49%. Coincident with the decline of the importance of that Americans give to religion, Americans now have turned over their lives increasingly to more government control. In 1950, government at the federal, state, and local level took almost 23% of our economy. In 2020, that reached almost 45%. So let's turn back again to what Reagan said. Reagan said in that same speech, in quotes, "We must never forget that no government schemes are going to perfect man. Our struggle, according to Reagan, is about good and even. And it's not an accident that as America retreats in this struggle, as Americans increasingly believe that government can perfect man, and as we relinquish our freedoms, that despots like Putin will step forward and try to move the world back to a darker time. We must not let that happen. We must regain, as Americans, our moral strength, our moral integrity, our moral character."